Okay, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited about today to chat with my dear friend Hector Rodriguez. He is an inspiration to me and has been for many years. And I think that you all are going to enjoy his story, his insight, and a little glimpse into what he's working on now and what's in store for the future. So, without further ado, Hector, welcome. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you. And I would say you've been an inspiration to me. Probably going on 5 years now, I'm gonna guess.
It has been 5 years. Isn't that crazy? It
Yeah.
feels like it feels like yesterday, but then it does feel like 5 years ago.
Yeah. It's been a while. I'm
Yeah,
glad to be talking to you.
as am I. As am I. I wanted to pick your brain for a long time, so thanks for going along with this.
And I want to pick your brain.
Sweet. Well, I feel like you have a lot more experience in the world of endurance sports than I do. I feel like a peon compared to you. So I too, selfishly, am excited to get some insight and some recommendations from you today. So let's start from the beginning because I don't know this. When I met you 5 years ago on Instagram, we were doing challenges, like physical challenges, fitness challenges, and getting through the pandemic and trying
Right.
to stay in shape when gyms were closing and we still wanted to move and run and participate in endurance sports. But what I don't know, and I know what our audience would love to know, is how did you get started in endurance sports?
Yeah, that was such a good time. Not the pandemic, but the community that was built during that time that like still lasts today. So when you're saying that, it just reminds me of that, and I love that. For me, I think similar to you from what I've seen, have been heavily influenced in a positive way by David Goggins. So for me, I think I was always casually doing Ironmans, similar to you, half Ironmans, like marathons, half marathons, like all those kind of things. I was casually kind of training. I came across David Goggins, read his book, saw a couple of podcasts he had with like with Joe Rogan, Rich Roll, and just something about his story and the book just like kind of clicked something for me of just like training for life and that all of that, the endurance athlete is the bad mofo, the one that like is pushing themselves, and then how all that stuff can just apply to all areas of life, not just training. And so I think he just had a lot of things that just made sense to me and just clicked that way. I was like, okay, well, let me see what I'm capable of. And so I set out by just running and walking and hiking, and that just led to just continuing to test myself to see how far I could push and how far I could go. So I blame him.
He's a good one to blame. I love that we share that inspiration. And for anybody who hasn't read David Goggins or isn't familiar with him, highly recommend both of his books. Can't Hurt Me is the one that you and I read, and
Right.
I feel the same way about it. Like I loved running and sports before that, but all of a sudden you read that book, it's really hard to not get inspired because he just does such incredible stuff and he's been through so much. So that's super interesting. It's really cool that he can inspire so many people. I've heard a lot of people say like, I read his book or I heard him speak and that was it. And they totally changed their lives. So it's awesome. And then,
Yeah. Me, probably nobody influenced me in a positive way, like more
mhm,
than that book, than any other book.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I totally
Same,
agree.
absolutely the same. If somebody asked me like what one thing can I do to like light that fire in me, I'd be like, read that book.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I want to go back to you were casually doing Ironmans.
Half Iron Man to one Iron Man.
Okay. So that means that we're going to have to do an Ironman together because it would be our second for both of us. So I'll
Yeah,
just put that out there. But
let's do it.
so you had been doing that. What like kind of got you started in that? Like your first half Ironman, or what did you start with? A half was your first one or a shorter distance?
I'm pretty sure I did a bunch of halves. And what got me going on that was my uncle. He lived nearby, and we'd go on runs. And then being in San Diego, we have access to water and great places to swim. So then it would be like, all right, let's go swim. Then it was like bike. So then it was just like, let's just go do some Ironmans, 70.3s. And then what I really loved about the sport was the locations on some of these places. So I was able, I made it an excuse to go to Puerto Rico. I did the one there. I did one in Tahoe. I did one in Cozumel. So I've just had a blast seeing these places and then obviously doing the sport.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I would definitely do a full. So we should talk after this and
Yes.
get one on the
Yes.
calendar.
Would love that. I would absolutely love that.
I was so miserable on the one I did that I got to get a redemption. I finished, but I was miserable.
Were you? Which
Yeah.
one was it? Which full?
It was in Santa Rosa,
Okay.
the Vineman
Oh yeah.
Full or Santa
Yeah.
Rosa. I forgot I think they changed the name. So it was
Yeah.
something and then they changed it to something else, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it was up like more towards wine country,
Okay.
all that area.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah. I know. I feel like I only have what I did Ironman Maryland, as you know, and I savored that experience, but I definitely have that desire to like do better, like have a better time. And just,
Yeah,
you learn so much in these races, right?
right.
And then you're like, okay, well, I have to do it again because I have to apply the things that I learned in the next race, which keeps us coming back, right?
Yeah,
Um, so then you decide you're going to start doing ultra. So I
right.
know a lot of triathletes transition over, but you transitioned into like really, really hard ultra, like super, super ultra. So we'll talk about that. But what was your first ultra race and how did it go?
I think what I did was I made the decision that like I'm gonna push, and that was like December 2019. And I like within like a month or two signed up, not signed up, went to go do the Grand Canyon rim to rim to rim, which is like 40 plus miles and a ton of vert. And I went with my brother, and I would call it a DNF. We went half, and I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Then I was like, I'm gonna go do the Leona Divide. Like, so I guess what I'm getting at is I just went ridiculous.
You should, no 50K, no 50 miler. Like you're just going
No,
for it.
yeah, like, oh, I could do it, and I DNF that. And so I think and there was probably another one I DNF. So I actually kind of started off like going really far, just skipping over everything, and then failing in those three. So then I went back down. Maybe it was like October, and signed up for 50K. And then that December did a 50 miler, got that, and then I started getting this momentum,
Yeah.
and to built back up to be able to do 100K and beyond, and now even up to 200 milers.
Yeah. I love that you just went for it. I think
Yeah,
some people are like they like to do things chronologically, right? And that works for some people. And it's great, but also like sometimes like what you would call a DNF is still um it's a wonderful learning experience, right? I think there's something to be said for getting out there. Like training is one thing, right? And I always say like you can train, indoor for triathlon or whatever, but it's not the same as being on the race course. And I think there's something to be said for using races as training, right? And it sounds like that's part of what you did and probably why you're able to also mentally take on these giant races that you took on after that.
yeah. I would say one, like me and my buddy Justin, we like it's like kind of a joke between us, but it's completely true. It's just like we're knuckleheads. Just like, yeah, like whether I train or not, yeah, I'm gonna go out for this 100K. And so like, kind of to your point, I've done Cocodona last year, attempted it, and I DNF'd it at mile 146.47. So it's a DNF for sure. I didn't hit the goal, but because I went out there and did it, for other people hitting the 100 miles was a goal, and I went 47 miles more. So I don't know, when you just push and you go big, it's still very cool. And so like it's cool. It's almost cool in a way. Like obviously it's great and I want to finish it, but it's also cool to know that my failure is 147 miles.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And such a difficult course with all that elevation gain. Like, I don't know, I live at sea level. So people
Yeah,
are like, come out west and do races. And I'm like, there's like a hill, like it might be 10-foot gain.
right. Yeah,
There's a whole new level of respect. And let's talk about that. Let's talk about you and Justin because like I love following you guys. You have this wonderful camaraderie, but you also
yeah,
bring what I would say is a fun, like an element of fun and humor to things that are really difficult.
yeah,
Um, and so like I remember following along your journey with Justin across the country, like right? It
yeah.
was like coast to coast triathlon, basically. Can you tell us a little bit about that and some of the things you learned along the way?
Oh, I love Justin. Just the definition of knucklehead. I mean, just think about this. For him to sit with me and go like, I have this idea. Okay, Justin, what's your idea? I want to swim from the Florida Keys to Miami. Then I want to get on a bike and bike from Miami to San Diego. And then I want to get off the bike and run from San Diego to San Francisco. Like, it's so unbelievable. It's so absurd, so ridiculous. And then he goes out and pretty much knocks it out. So it's just, I don't know. It was a great experience. He's just a special person, tough guy, super tough. I was able to, so I was actually running Coco when he started the swim, and then right after, I don't remember the exact dates, but within a few days of the Cocodona in 2021, flew out. I caught him in Mississippi, and with a couple others, just kind of helped crew and ride my bike when I could with him, and got some miles. I think in Mississippi, Louisiana, and through Texas, and it was crazy because I was also working. So it would be like work, it would be try to like ride with him, work. Then he's flying like 100, 200 miles. So then I'd have to go catch him.
Yeah.
And then, if I got a chance, ride with him. If not, like crew and just kind of hang out, just be moral support. But he was just locked in and crushed it. So, and I'm glad you see the camaraderie. Like, I do like cherish and appreciate his friendship. It's definitely unique and special.
Yeah. No, you guys have great camaraderie, and I think that's one of the things about like the guy me and endurance sports was like the camaraderie and like how supportive everybody is and kind of like how we all like support each other through social media. And so talk a little bit about because you were the one that really came up with the term wolf pack, right? And so
Yeah.
you know what I guess how does that camaraderie help you in endurance sports in life? Like people like Justin and I always try and explain this to people who are looking to get into this sport. And I'm like, the people, like that's what it is. Like go to a race and go to the finish line or go and see the any part of the race and see the people connecting and supporting each other. To me, it's like the most powerful part, right?
Yeah, I think what I love about it, like definitely of everything I've done, to me the best, like I would give any race finish back, and I would take Wolfpack all day long. And what I have found in my personal experiences is a couple things. One is it's been interesting to hear stories, including myself, of like maybe people I grew up with or family members or friends who, once you start going down this path of like testing my limits, development, maybe opening this business, like doing these hard things, you would think these people here would be like the most supportive. And it's very interesting that that's not the case for a lot of people. But it's almost like there's this new door, and you see things differently when you see someone like yourself or Justin or Ben or all of these other amazing people out there voluntarily pushing themselves supporting others, crewing others, helping others, giving back, all of it, that now that like I've been in the community and I see these people, like I have yet to meet you and we need to do that. But if you called me and like, hey, I'm coming to San Diego, can I crash? Like I've never met you, 1000%. We're staying, we're gonna hang out, and like there's no doubt in my mind we would get along great. There would be no awkwardness. Like it's just like an instant connection with just other people that are like pushing themselves and trying to be better, that it's just like I don't know if it's a connection. And like I've yet to meet a knucklehead or like a bad knucklehead, like a shithead.
Right,
Like
right.
every single person is incredible and amazing. And it's like I think it's just something about that. Like I've yet to just meet a bad person. Like everybody's amazing.
Yeah. It is so incredible because I think like people that are looking to get into the sport, or they see all the crazy stuff that endurance athletes are doing, they're like, why? And it is almost like a spiritual thing as far as the physical stuff, but I think you're exactly right. It's the camaraderie, and I feel the same way. Like Mikasa, Sukasa,
Yeah.
on the tough days, we could, log on Instagram, share a workout with each other, like the whole group, like, or I see Ben out there crewing. I see you helping, just always paying it forward, it seems. And it's like just like a constant source of inspiration, which is it's hard to put into words, right? Like you did it more eloquently than I can, but I think it's such a big portion of, or a big reason why we all do this.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree and appreciate and cherish the community and the relationships in that community and the people. It's just there's just like Justin's in different podcasts has made the comment. I forgot exactly how he says it, but just basically like someone that's just like going to do 100 miles, or he's crewing, and like you just see the core of the person. Like you just know there's just no bullshit. It's like a rawness. And so there's something about that that I think it just draws people or connects people and is just good.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know much about crewing, so maybe you can like tell us a little bit about that. I mean, I obviously like I see it and I see you doing it and Justin doing it and Ben doing it.
Yeah.
And so let's go ahead and start talking about maybe um some of your crewing experiences, and
Yeah.
then of course I want to talk about your Triple Crown.
I have a great one. And this kind of goes back to the community.
Mhm.
I would say one of my favorite Instagram accounts since 2019 has been this guy, Zach Pogrub. I
Mhm.
probably butchering his last name. His Instagram used to be called Behavior Hack.
Mhm.
And back then he would post like Goggins and Cameron Haynes and Jocko, and he like put cool effects. Now he's all like super inspiring. The way he writes is incredible. I think he's like the best Instagram writer out. So, anyways, similar to you and others, I met him back then, and now he's blown up like 1 million followers, just crushing it. But we connected because we have a similar mindset. And when I was in New York, maybe 3 4 months ago, I was like, "Yo, I'm in New York," and he's like, "Man, let's hang out." So we went and got dinner. I got to meet him, got to tell him like I appreciate him and his writing and all of that stuff because he's very inspiring to me. So then I went back again, and now he's doing a run club. So I'm like, I'm gonna come to your run club. I want to support. I'll be there. So we do the run club. This is a Monday morning, and this is before my work. So I'm like, hey man, I'm here until like Thursday, Friday. Let's do something dumb. And then he's like, okay, what are you thinking? I'm like, let's go get you a PR. So he's like, okay, let me map some things out and I'll get back to you. Next day, he comes and he's like, all right, I want to run through the night and get 50 miles or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. He's like, you in? I'm like, I'm in. So, knucklehead, I end up going Friday. I ended up staying an extra day. I ended up going to get a city bike in New York City. We grab all of like his crew stuff. And so it's like a piece of shit, like a rideshare bike. We grab all of his stuff. I put it in the basket, and he's crazy enough to accept my willing to crew him.
Mhm.
And I just followed him on a piece of crap bike, whole basket of like all of his aid stuff. And I followed him as he ran for 9 straight hours in New York City. And it was incredible, even though the heat killed me, but like it was a blast. And it's just like, again, like I've only met him twice, but there was this connection and we rocked and rolled all night long. And I helped him get through it. So it's just like, when else would you do something like that? It's just
Right.
bananas.
Right. I love that you did that. And I love that you were like, let's go get you a PR. Because sometimes you need a nudge from another knucklehead to be like, all right, like, let's do this, you know?
Yeah.
And I think too, like, I love that story for lots of reasons, but also because you don't have to live out in, like, I think one of the things with people is like, oh, I have to live in a certain place to do this kind of, you know, to do running and sports, or I can't do it on my treadmill. I need to be out in Utah in the mountains or whatever. And the thing is, make like your mind, back to Goggins, will trick you and be like, no, like, you know, you don't have the right gear, you don't have the right whatever. It's like, no, man, I'm going to get a city bike and a basket and we're going to run
Yes.
to New York. Like, if you,
Yeah, we got yelled at. He got yelled at by security on one part we were supposed to run in. I got yelled at by police because we were in Central Park and we didn't know that like technically it closes.
oh,
But
I didn't know that either.
yeah, it was. But like he'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. For hanging out like for the second time ever. Like what a memorable experience. That was just an absolute blast that we just winged it. And I think nobody got a cooler tour than me of New York City than from following him on that bike for 9 hours
Yeah.
straight.
Oh my gosh, I bet. You're like an expert in New York City now. You probably know all the routes and everything. They're the best
Yeah, and
running
it was
routes.
nice too. It was so nice. I was stunned by some of the places that he took me where you just saw the skyline. And it's like it's such a busy city. It almost felt like surreal to how quiet and empty it was that whole night.
Right.
So it was kind of cool to have the city to ourselves like that.
I was gonna say you got to see a different side of it that
Right.
probably very few people see. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
wild. I love that story. I love how, you know, kudos to you too, because you're so supportive. I've always
Yeah.
felt with you that you just so supportive. It didn't matter if I was going and running 3 miles or I was training for an Ironman. Like you are just such a supportive friend and an
Yeah.
inspiration. So yeah, I just want to let you know you
Yeah.
feel
I don't
that
know.
way.
It's just like I just see people. I don't know how to explain it, but like I just see people and maybe it's like something in your aura or something, but like there's nothing in me that just like there's no doubt that you 1000% are like just awesome and like are doing your best. And I see all this stuff you're doing, with the podcast and business and entrepreneur and being a mom and training. Like I love people like I love Jesse Itzler.
Yep.
So like I love Goggins for like that hardcore mentality, but I also like the Jesse Itzler because like he's a parent. He also does hard things. He has this whole business side. So he's striving for this multiple buckets. And to me, you fit that category and are big inspiration for me as I see you like going after multiple things. And so it's just like you're a teammate of mine. Like, let's go and let's crush it. So yeah, that's why I'm supportive because I see it and I know how hard it is as I'm myself trying to navigate through all of those buckets.
Yes. Well, thank you. I'm truly humbled by you saying that because I feel like such a peon. I'm always like, I feel like I'm always like trying to train, like doing like the bare minimum training, but kind of, you know, maybe we, you know, you've done much bigger races than me, but I'll be like, oh, I'm just gonna go run this 50K. I was like not trained for it, but I wanted to do it. Like I'm like, I'm never gonna have the perfect training schedule being a mom and an entrepreneur and all this. So you just gotta wing it at some point, right? Like but thank you because you are such an inspiration to me. And I love, I feel like people really need a lot. Some people are like really self motivated and, you know, like Goggins, but like then I think most people do better with somebody in their corner or just saying like, hey, you can do this, or let's go get you a PR. It can be like one sentence that changes somebody's whole life. And
Yeah.
you fit that bill. You do it for, I know you do it for a lot of people. I know I'm not the only one that feels that way. So
Yeah.
thank you.
And vice versa.
Thank you. That's a good segue actually into a question that I have because it's something that I struggle with. But I think a lot of people are like, I'm too busy to do endurance sports. Like, I'm a parent and I have a career and like I can't even find time to get to the gym. Like, how am I going to do this? Right. So you are a real estate investor. You work for Amazon. You crush it in regards to ultra endurance events. You mentor other people. You're an amazing father, right? How do you how do you do it? Is there balance in your life? Like, is there a certain strategy that you find works best? Like, how's it all come together that you can do all this stuff?
It's a good question. I don't think there's a balance for sure. I think it's like a gift and a curse in some ways. What I've found or done in the endurance sports. So in endurance sports, like I remember one of my most memorable moments was I did a 24-hour race and I was at like mile like 32 and I just felt awful. I was like, oh, I'm gonna drop. Like there's no way. And my knee was hurting. I remember even texting a buddy who was gonna come out and crew me in the night, like like wait, like maybe there's no need to come. Then I ended up getting 58 more miles and got like I think maybe my first top 5 finish. And so I ended up with like 90 miles or something like that. And like that was very memorable to me because I honestly did not think I could go that far. And then so then that kind of led to pushing hard on these other things and finding that I can do some extremely gnarly things that a lot of people can't do. Then that clicked to go, well, if I can do it here, can I do it in my real estate? Can I do it for my employer? Can I do it for my girls? And so I think the reason I say it's a gift and a curse is that like I think I'm always pushing for extremes and like so it's like a lot, but like I'm here for it, and it's just like it's become normal, and I would feel weird if I didn't have all of these buckets flowing. And it's so much, but it's also so like effortless for me at this point. It's just like it's become me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, what a way to experience life, right? It's like there's probably never really a boring day, right?
No,
Because like
and I don't have bad days. Like it's like crazy to say, like, because like for me, even if like things don't work out on stuff on work or in just an issue, like I'm always just proud of my effort. So then like I always revert back to that. So it's like I'm just always proud of my effort because I am like pushing in so many levels that I'm just always proud. So being always proud makes me always have good days.
yeah,
It's like because there's always effort. Like I'm always, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but that's kind of just how I feel and maybe the way my mindset is.
I absolutely love that. And I love, I mean, I think people are still so afraid of failure, and maybe sometimes what holds them back is what other people think, or maybe even what they think. And, DNFs and just putting yourself out there and saying like no matter if it works out or not, like the effort is on me and I'm proud of that. I love that
Yeah.
philosophy. And I think there's so much wisdom in that, not only just in endurance sports but in life. And what a
Correct.
wonderful example to set for your girls, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they get to watch you do all this crazy stuff. I think that like I strive to do the same with my son, which is, when people ask about balance, it's like I don't really know what that is. Um,
Yeah.
it's hard to have balance when you decide to push your limits in anything. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, we can say our kids are watching, and I'd rather leave him with the impression that he can do anything than to second guess himself. So speaking
Love
of
that.
which, let's segue over to something that I'm just still unable to comprehend in my brain, which is the Triple Crown finish of three of the hardest 200-mile races in the United States. Um, so why don't you tell us a little bit about what those races are? I know there's a lot of elevation.
Yeah.
So give us a little background on what the Triple Crown is for those races.
So back then, this was, I think, 2021. It consisted of a 200-mile race with like 40,000 feet of vert in the Cascade Mountains in Washington. And that is done in August. Then September is the 200 miler in Tahoe, which is a lot of vert and elevation. And then in October, it's a 240 miles in Moab, Utah. So it's basically three 200-mile races, anywhere from 30 to like 40,000 feet of vert, and you only have a month in between. So back then, I think, maybe there was like under 70 finishers. So I was able to go out for that challenge and fortunately was able to finish it. So it was wild. It was probably the most extreme experiences ever.
Yeah.
It was very hard.
I was so proud of you watching from afar, and I mean, I've never run more than 50K. So to me, trying and no elevation, right? Like again, I live at sea level. So trying to wrap my head around what goes into that, right? I remember seeing some of the videos on social media with the blisters and you sleeping like on the side of the trail, like
Yeah.
take us back to what you call the pain cave. So like what is the pain cave to you? And how do you find yourself, how do you get out of a pain cave when you're in these races or these situations like that?
The pain cave. The pain cave is going to definitely show up at some point in 200 miles. I think the pain cave is just an analogy of just when you're wrecked, you're sleep deprived, everything is hurting, your feet hurt. Maybe it's like freezing cold. It's super hot. I think a lot of people hate that place, but then love that place. You hate it because it hurts and it sucks and it's miserable. But on the flip side, when you're feeling that bad and you step back and look that despite feeling this bad, I'm still climbing this mountain. I'm still taking steps forward. I'm still giving my all. I'm still doing my best. I'm still succeeding. I'm still in this race. I think that's where, like, kind of where I said earlier, like, where you find and push your limit. And so, unfortunately, it takes having to go into the pain cave to find out, especially in these bigger, larger challenges.
Yeah. I can't even imagine. Like I just have so much respect for you after seeing that footage. I always remember thinking like, I wonder what's going through his mind right now. Like you have such a good sense of humor. I feel like with all these, like you'll be like, oh, like, we talk about the flamingos and what are you going to see? Are you going to hallucinate? You know,
Yeah,
so I guess like humor is probably part of it. Or you say you're gonna party in a pain cave, right? Like
right.
dance it out.
It's real, but yeah, you gotta like kind of play too. And I
Yeah,
think that's kind of like why me and Justin get along so well too. Is like it's very serious, and it's very like we have serious moments. He has had my back in the pain cave, and he has seen me at my worst more than anybody, in
right.
like real, authentic, raw way. But you know, like on the flip side, there is fun. Like right before I DNF'd in one of the years at Coco, like I was hallucinating, this other guy was hallucinating. Justin's like yelling at me to like stop hallucinating. And, so now it's all just like, silly and funny, but like it's just wild. But yeah, I think we do a good job of being serious when we need to be, but then like if we can make something fun, funny, silly, we do to kind of offset it. It helps.
Yeah. I love that you use humor and kind of push each other. It's again where that camaraderie comes in. I think that it seems to me that these races, you know, it's important, at least for you, what I could see was to see your girls, right, where you could, and your family and your wife, and your crew is super important, right? So like talk a little bit about that. Like how does that come into these races, right? Like does it give you kind of something mentally to look forward to see certain people along the way? And what different roles do people play, like from your crew to your family to your friends, people cheering
Yeah.
you on?
I think like one part is it's just fun. It's fun to just like go do something crazy, like something like a knucklehead, like like Justin could call me and go like, "Hey, let's go run across Iceland." Okay, like let's go, and like with Zach,
Yeah.
"Hey, let's go ride a bicycle for 9 hours." Like
Yeah.
let's go do something. So it's like silly, it's fun, it's funny,
Yeah.
it's cool, it's memorable.
Yeah.
I think for me, probably like my number one motivation has always been my girls. And in so many ways, in the sense that like I just feel I've learned so much that I've learned like the beauty in testing yourself. I've learned the beauty in community. I've learned so much in the entrepreneurial and business world that I'm very mindful of it all. Like I would say in the last like 3 4 years, I've just learned so much in business and real estate. And so I just have a lot in my head that I want to instill in my girls. Some of it by saying, "Hey, like let me show you this," like explain something, but then other ways where I want them to see me persevere, succeed. I want them to see when I fail. I want them to see me when I get back up. So all of it is just, I think, good things that I hope I'm instilling in them to make them awesome little big girls when they're older, I guess.
What a wonderful example they have, and just seeing the process like that, like so raw and authentically. I can only imagine, like that's parenting at its finest, in my humble opinion. And they're lucky. They're lucky girls for sure. Um,
Yeah, I'm mindful. I'm lucky. I'm a lucky dad.
yeah, yeah. It is wild to be like a parent and doing all this stuff. So what would you, if you had advice for somebody that wants to get into, let's say, ultra running or triathlon, um and they don't know where to start, like they're not in shape, or maybe they're in just very basic shape, they're kind of overwhelmed by the jargon and the acronyms and all that stuff, maybe elevation, maybe they feel like they don't live in a place where they get a lot of support. What advice would you give to the newbies who are looking to maybe push their limits, but don't really know where to get started? Like what would you tell them to do?
Move. Like just time on feet. Maybe like I think maybe a lot of people would get turned off really fast because they see certain people running like 6 minute miles. I think any vet, you ask like a Ben Light, not even the best runners in some of these races are running 6 minute miles when it's 100, 200 miles. A lot of times it's 12-minute miles, 15-minute miles, like, will get the job done. So my, I guess, suggestion would be, to just move. A lot of it's just get time on feet. And when you feel good, pick up the pace. And when you feel bad, back off of it. I personally use heart rate and kind of let that dictate my pace. I know a lot of people subscribe to that method, and I know a lot of people also don't. But I think you just essentially just have to move, whether it's a walk, a hike, or a run, and get some time on your feet, and then see if following your heart rate works for you in your training or not.
Yeah. That's wonderful advice. And I'm so happy to hear you say that too, because I think, I mean, I like watching all this stuff. Like when I watch, let's say, like triathlon stuff, I love to watch the pros and everything they're eating and everything they're doing. But like that's not, doable for like the average person. And I'm a big fan of heart rate training too. And like just, 80/20, like 80% of it is
Right.
low heart rate stuff and 20% speed work when I can get it in there.
You
And
got
I
it.
always tell people it's really not as complex as you think it is. And that's again to go
Right.
back to Goggins. Like your mind is going to try and trick you, like, oh, like this is a hard workout and you need to do this and that. I think sometimes just keeping it simple, and like you said, it's time on your feet. Like it all counts. Every single step you take counts towards some sort of training, right?
Yeah. And for me, it's like even just walking to the grocery store, walk back. Like
Mhm.
there was a point where I was like very diligent, maybe is the right word, of getting steps, 20,000 steps, 10 miles a day. So like I would just accrue miles any which way I could, just walking like even if I went to the store, then okay, I'm gonna walk back. And so a lot of walking, running, hiking. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, like I go slow a lot. So I would just say, yeah, time on feet.
Feet. That's wonderful advice, and I think that that's very achievable advice too for people. Like you can walk to the store, right? Like every step counts. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. Um, so when you were doing the bigger races, like when you were training for, let's say, the Triple Crown, what did your training look like? What was a week or month like? I mean, because there's not much recovery time between those either. So, like, let's say before that first race, what did your training look like? Do you remember like what mileage you were throwing down? Are you doing it like, did you have a very specific training program, or were you kind of like, I'm going by feel and how my body is doing?
At that point, I was a madman, hardcore. I was going 10 miles a day,
Hmm.
like literally every day. And I think over the course of like 24 months, like I was hitting, basically, I think kind of what you said, I was hitting a race almost every month, whether it was like a 50K, 50 mile, some kind of treadmill stunt. So I would just like run, walk 10 miles a day. And then once a month, I'd have like this race or event. And I just never really stuck to a structure, just kind of was hardcore with it. I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't recommend what I did for sure, but it's what worked for me at that time.
Hey, it works. And that's the thing. Like everybody's different, and when you're a busy parent too, sometimes like I find really structured workouts for me stress me out because I feel like if I miss one, I didn't do what I was supposed to do, but my son has school and travel soccer and like sometimes I'm just like running sprints at his soccer practice, and that's all I can get in. So I'm with you. I think there's something to be said for intuitive training as well. It's just a little bit more flexible when you're busy, and if you're in tune with your body, you can learn a lot, I think, right?
Yeah, agreed. Back to just being busy, like there was definitely times where okay, I got an hour break between meetings and working from home. So let me go get in the treadmill and get 4 or 5 miles, and then maybe there's another gap later because I'd also try to like squeeze in as much as I could. So then by the evening, I could spend time with my girls. So
Yeah.
yeah, so just yeah, I never was great with a structure. It was more just go get them how you can.
Yeah. Yeah. It fits into life that way, I think. And I recommend that too. So I'm glad I'm not the only one because
Yeah,
when I started working with Ben, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have all these workouts I need to do. And I
and
def
there's no doubt. Like if you probably, there's no doubt you follow Ben's plan, you're gonna crush it. You
yes,
know, it's
yes,
like that's optimal
yes,
performance.
yes,
But
yes.
what I did was not performance, but I was able to survive.
But you
It's like
learn,
survival mode.
yeah, but you learn so much along the way. And I think, yeah, and we're referring to Ben Light, who's an amazing ultra runner athlete, and he's a coach as
Yeah,
well. And
it's amazing.
he is amazing. And I'm hoping we can get him on here too and chat with him a little bit. I think he's
Yeah,
probably like out crewing somebody right now, so he's had a busy
correct.
race season. But
Yeah.
yeah. So, well, tell us what's next. Like, I know you're really busy with the business world, so maybe tell us a little bit about that and then some physical stuff if you're training for any races.
Your question was what's like what I plan next from a business side or from a race side?
Yeah, so like both. So what's going on? Like I know you're a real estate investor, and so what's keeping you busy these days with that and
Oh,
entrepreneurship?
real estate is like my passion. I love that. I have Airbnb, we've flipped houses, I have traditional rentals,
Yeah,
done Burr method.
yeah.
So I kind of just look for opportunity, however that lies. So we're always looking for deals. And I have a blast just with all that. So actively looking to add to the portfolio, if you want to call it that. I have real estate in Cali, Nevada, Indianapolis, and Florida.
Okay.
So those are kind of where we rock and roll. So we'll continue with that. From the race side, I've been having, we've talked about my buddy Justin quite a bit. I really have a great time hanging out with him. And I have, so my guess is that so I'll take a step back. I had a 100 miler plan for in 2 weeks. but this hurricane just caused that to cancel. So that really sucked. I was going to use that 100 miler as like a good, like one, like race to achieve that. But then also, my guess will be me and Justin some point next year will run across some country and probably just completely wing it, just like knuckleheads, probably get in trouble, probably something will happen because there'll probably be not the greatest planning and we'll just go out and do it. And I'm super stoked and excited to do that and to do it with him. So that's going to be my guess. We've mentioned doing it with Iceland, but we'll see. I'll see him here. I'll see him next month, and I would be quite sure that we'll figure something out.
Awesome. Well, hopefully, will you be documenting whatever it is so we can
Yeah,
follow along
for sure.
and cheer you on and see what trouble you guys get into? That sounds
Yeah,
like a good like TV show or series for Netflix. Like
yeah.
maybe Netflix needs to have, follow you and Justin like with a camera.
There's it's a freaking blast.
Yeah.
Like it's always a blast, and it's always an adventure with Justin. That is an absolute fact.
Yeah. Well, I wish you guys the absolute best. I can't wait to see what you guys get into. I always smile looking at whatever you guys are doing. I mean, I'm just like, wow, they're out there crushing it, but obviously you're having fun too, and
Yeah,
that's what it's all
yeah.
about. So awesome. Well, thank you so much. I have been looking forward to this for so long, and thanks for taking the time. I feel like you have you're not only an inspiration, but everything you've shared is really valuable information. And I think to all those people watching out there who are like, I don't know where to get started, or I have some self doubts about this. I hope that all the information that you've shared today encourages them to just get started. Um, because maybe if we asked you 10 years ago if you would have done all these crazy things, I don't know what you would have said. Like,
No way at all.
but anything is possible. And thank you so much. I look forward to seeing all your adventures and wish you the best in your upcoming physical races and challenges, and also, of course, in the business world. But before we go, where can people follow along if they would like to connect with you on social media and follow your future races with Justin?
Instagram, HRod619, I think is just the best spot.
Awesome. Awesome. And we'll link that below too. So thank you so much. And hopefully maybe next year you and I can do some knucklehead stuff too. Maybe I can tag along with you and Justin for a few miles.
Like seriously, that's what needs to go on the accountability mirror.
Yes.
Knucklehead activity with Hector and Justin.
Hey, I'm going to you know what? I promise you that after we do this, I will put it on a post-it note and I will go in the mirror. So
Okay,
next
perfect.
year. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Hector. You're awesome. And
Thank
we'll
you.
talk to you soon. Thanks for coming on.